What if you were basically told you were the chosen one, destined for greatness, but then you had to spend the next 20 years just trying to live up to that hype? Well, that's the real-life story of composer Johannes Brahms, and we're going to dive right into it.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. Your absolute hero, we're talking a huge YouTuber, a pro athlete, whoever, gives you a massive shout out. They tell the whole world you're the next big thing. I mean, it sounds amazing, but the pressure would be absolutely insane, right? Well, that is literally what happened to a 20-year-old musician named Brahms.
So, this quote, this major shout-out came from Robert Schumann, who was basically the biggest music superstar on the planet at the time. He drops this in a super famous article called New Paths, and boom, just like that, Brahms is famous overnight, all across Europe. I mean, no pressure or anything, right?
So now the whole world is watching. Brahms has to prove himself. And, in the world of classical music, there was one ultimate challenge, like the final boss you had to beat to prove you were a true legend. You had to write a symphony.
See, when it came to symphonies, there was one name that just loomed over everybody else: Ludwig van Beethoven. His work was considered the absolute peak, the GOAT, and Brahms famously said he could feel the footsteps of a giant right behind him every time he sat down to compose. Seriously, how do you even start when you feel like you're competing with a legend like that?
Well, he didn't start quickly, that's for sure. This timeline shows you the incredible grind he went on. For over 20 years after that big prophecy, Brahms just struggled. He was his own worst critic. He would write entire drafts of his symphony and then just destroy them, rip them up, convinced they weren't good enough. That's 2 decades of trying to beat one single boss battle.
But when he finally released it in 1876, the world was completely blown away. The critics were so impressed, they gave it the ultimate compliment. They nicknamed it Beethoven's 10th. He hadn't just copied the giant, he had met him on his own terms, on his own level. Boss battle defeated. Brahms had officially leveled up. And after conquering the symphony, it was like Brahms had unlocked his entire skill tree. He wasn't just the symphony guy. He went on to prove that he was a master of pretty much every kind of music out there.
So yeah, he had his 4 epic symphonies, but he also wrote this incredible music for huge choirs. And he totally mastered chamber music. You can think of that as like a super intimate, unplugged session for just a few instruments. And get this, he even had viral hits. His Hungarian dances were ridiculously popular, the kind of catchy tunes that everyone knew and played. One of his most powerful pieces was his German Requiem. Now, usually a requiem is music for a funeral, praying for the dead. But Brahms kind of flipped the script. After losing his own mother and his mentor, Schumann, he used texts from the German Bible to create music that was meant to comfort the people left behind, the living. It was a huge success, and it really showed this deeply personal human side of him.
Okay, so we know the music, but who was the actual guy behind that legendary beard? His public image was of this really serious, kind of intimidating master, but that really wasn't the whole story. If you look at his character sheet, you see 2 totally different people. In public, yeah, he could be a bit gruff, but in private, he was this incredibly generous person, often secretly giving his own money to help younger musicians get their careers started. He lived a super simple life with a strict routine: wake up, make coffee, compose, take a long walk. And even though he never married, he was a really loyal and dedicated friend.
So why are we still talking about some guy from the 19th century? What's his ultimate high score in the game of music history? Well, it all really comes down to one key idea.
Brahms was often called a traditionalist. And I know that can sound a little boring, like he was just old-fashioned or something. But that's not what it meant at all. For Brahms, being a traditionalist was all about studying the OG masters, guys like Bach and Beethoven, learning all their moves, and then using that strong foundation to build something totally new and powerful for his own time.
So in the end, that's what he was. He was the ultimate bridge. He proved that you didn't have to throw out all the old rules to say something new and powerful. He showed that classic styles could still express the deepest modern emotions, connecting the music of the past to the music of the future. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? Brahms chose to perfect the traditions he inherited, not to invent totally new ones. So, what do you think? In art or in tech or even just in life, is it better to be a radical inventor who breaks all the rules or a master craftsman who perfects something timeless? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for digging into this with me.